wasn't even connected to the internet. This facility wasn't even connected to the internet. How did they get in? And you go, well, they actually had malicious USBs, which were dropped in like car parks or brought in by contractors through this secure facility and then plugged into the systems. And you go, oh my God, why do we allow our employees to plug things in? Well, when you have specific contractors, inside a threat, you're trusting them with what they're bringing in. And they were trying to diagnose these faults, but they're actually introducing new software versions. So look, there's a lot of a discussion about which nation states may have been involved with this. I would say instead of just trying to follow the forensic trail, follow the political trail for who was very much against Iran going and developing, having access to uranium. So, yeah, and that kind of might shape your thoughts and opinions around it. But it was the first large APT known attack, sophisticated cyber weapon because of how it was developed. It was highly targeted. It wasn't just like a Morris worm going and hitting everything. It was super targeted. Will only activate on the right thing. Now you go, well, if it was so good, Arj, it was so good, how come people found out about it? Huh. Well, it is believed that a certain nation state was working with another nation state, and that other nation state went, we need this to move faster. We need this to make sure that it is more prevalent and it can move quicker, and we continue to infect them with latest versions. So what they did was they put more kind of worm-like behavior into it. It made it replicate faster. And the only problem with that is that it then replicated outside of the chosen region. And that's when, different researchers actually got a hold of it because it was infecting their computers and they were, nowhere near where it was supposed to be. So it was like, this is weird. So that's believed how it got leaked out. So when we talk about saying slow, the quieter you are, the more you hear. That's a good example of it there, where it's just like, maybe it's not good just to spray everything because you never realize the collateral damage or people finding out who you are and what you're trying to do. Because again, once that cyber weapon was identified, it was hosed. And why do I mean? They had so many 0 days in it, like things that you'd never seen before, which were, I guess, specific to the Windows operating system, like exploitation of auto runs, exploitation of icon links. It was crazy. So that was the big kickoff between cyber becoming a huge thing. And now here we are 14 years later. And have things changed in terms of how we handle USB devices? Do you still allow for random USB devices to be plugged in? Oh no! Do you still use administrative controls to be like, don't plug your things in at work, guys? Oh, have we learnt anything?
I was having this conversation yesterday. I used to work in housing, and we'd put Department of Housing, and we'd put court documentation on USBs because we had to take it to court. And I thought I was being really responsible, and I was erasing all the data, and then I'd put it back in the communal pile of USBs that would get handed out to customers and get handed out to private members of the community to put their data on, and then we'd.
Are you a malware distributor, Nikki? Oh my
well,
God,
maybe they were.
I think you are. So, look, I do apologize. All of that was off the top of my head, which means there may be some factual inaccuracies there. Some people here may have gone, actually, I knew a little bit more than that. That's not exactly how it went down. That is the high level. Okay. If you are interested, there are some great books about this, write-ups. Look up Stuxnet, look up cyber weapons. There's heaps of different ones, which are out there, which are really great. 0 Days is another book as well, which is cool. So yeah, there's some great stuff depending on the level of technical detail you want. But talking about technical detail, guys, I promised you, I said, we are going to be looking at what this looks like on the other side. Arj, he has a strong opinion that it's great to be a blue teamer. Blue teaming is awesome. However, the way we look at the world from our ivory tower, from behind our castle walls, is not the same perspective that our adversaries have. We go, you know what we need? We know the NIST cyber framework. You know what it says first? Guys, what's the very first of the 5 aspects of NIST?
Identify.
NIST cybersecurity framework. Identify. Cool. And what kind of stuff are we doing when we're identifying?
Recording in progress.
So we're looking at what we have.
Logging? Monitoring
yep.
logs?
Probably not monitoring logs at that point in time. We're going to be saving that for later on when we're doing detection, or detect under the tech model. But identify, it's really about setting ourselves up to know what we've got, setting our governance up, making sure that we have proper processes and things in place. Okay. From an adversary's perspective, they don't care about your policies. They don't see them. They don't care. They look at what's on the ground real time. They get to see what your castle walls look like from the base level. They get to see where the holes are. They get to see if they can sneak through the moat. There's a whole bunch of things which they get to see, which you may not be able to if you're not looking. So what I want to do is I want to take you through the eyes of an adversary. I want to make sure that you have a great understanding of what they see. So then that way you can protect against them effectively, or at least when you engage things like penetration testers, you know what kind of approach they're going to take, because they try and replicate an adversary as much as possible. That's the idea. So then that way you can be protected effectively. Okay, thanks for that link, Jake, in the Discord as well, talking about Stuxnet in there. So, guys, how are we feeling? Do we want to go through and start doing a little bit of hacking? What do we think?
Let's do it.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna let me get the screen share up here then. Okay. Let me get the screen share going. Oh, sorry, guys. I am absolutely not prepared for this. Okay, that's much better. That is much better. So guys, like I was talking about, like why do we replicate these things like these hoodies and stuff like that? Honestly, it's just because we think what an adversary is like, right? It's not, right? We know that there's different types, but honestly, let's keep with the meme. Let's go through and do it. Let's own this. So the first thing that I said about this yesterday was I said, hey, if you want, you can follow through with me. If you didn't bring your hoodie, then sorry that you can't do it. Then it's just a natural button. You can follow through with me. We need a safe place to be able to do this. And there's a variety of different providing websites. Now, one of those websites we're going to be looking at today is TryHackMe, which again is free. You can also see Offensive Security, or OffSec, which is an amazing training website as well, and provides a lot of I guess industry leading certifications in this, such as the OSCP, which for a junior penetration tester, it is the preeminent certification at this point. There's also Hack the Box, which is another very popular free training platform as well for cybersecurity upskilling. If you don't want to be a penetration tester, that's cool, but understand. Play around with it, understand where they're coming from, where they train, so then you have a bit of an idea of what it's like. Or otherwise, you can follow along with like a YouTube video or anything like that as well. Get a bit of an idea about what's going on. So, in saying that, let's step through. We ready? We ready? Let's go. So, what have I got up here? What's my toolkit that I'm using right now? So, like I've talked about throughout the week, I'm going to be using Kali Linux, which is a specifically crafted Linux distribution, Kali Linux, for penetration testing and ethical hacking. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when you say, but can't I use any operating system? Couldn't I use Windows to do ethical hacking and whatnot? Yeah, you could. However, look what I have here when I click on the menu. I have everything I need from things like information gathering, vulnerability analysis. I have all of these tools, password attacks. I've got it all in here, all ready to go. I don't have to necessarily go and manually download everything. I got it all here. Or it's quickly within a couple of keystrokes, I can go through and get what I need because it's all in a repository. That's super helpful because, again, I want to make my job easier. Now, how much does Kali Linux cost? This is free. This is free. This is open source, guys, Debian-based Linux distribution. So that's what we're using. That's our platform today. Over on the right here, this is my console. This is my terminal. This is where the magic is going to happen today. Okay, but before we get into that, let me show you a little bit about this. Little bit about what we're going to look at today. So this machine, this is called Blue. It is a Windows machine. We're going to try and compromise it today. So if you look at the website here, it'll actually like. Honestly, if you don't have me here and you were doing it yourself, you could follow along with these questions and it'll tell you exactly what steps you need to take. Scan the machine, okay? And it'll tell you exactly how to do it in that sense and what steps we're going to be doing. However, I have taught you some steps, haven't I? We have looked at things like the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. For some reason, I was just had a mind blank there. So we'll be following through the steps of the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain in that sense, because I think it's greatly aligned with the course. So the first thing we need to do is do a bit of reconnaissance. Now, in terms of when we were thinking about performing reconnaissance, that's really looking at what is the open source information I can get to help me support compromising my target or getting onto a network or understanding, I guess, what kind of thing I'm going to be falling into. Now, does that really apply too much for what I'm doing now? Well, it gives me a lot of information on this website if I wanted to, but really that's probably something you would do before you had physical access like I do now or network access to a machine. So I'm basically going to go, hey, I'm going to tick off on that reconnaissance aspect as the first step. So well done, guys. We are through that first part, okay? The next one we want to do is go, well, hey, we need to start scanning this machine and getting a bit of an idea about what's going on. So let's do that. Remember, if you imagine we drop down into the room, okay, and it is completely black. We have no idea where we've landed. We need to get a bit of a feel for it. We need to touch what's going on in this room, so then that way I get a bit of an idea. How am I going to do that? Well, I said I need to land in there. For me to actually attack this online box, I need to connect to their private virtual network. So to do that, I need to connect to their VPN. So one of the first commands I'm going to run is a command to connect using a program called OpenVPN to the OpenVPN file that they're provided, which is basically just a configuration file. And I'm using this other command here, sudo, which means super user do. So we talked about elevation of privileges, like using administrator privileges to do certain functions. That's what that's doing. It's saying, hey, I'm normally a standard user, but for this particular function, I need to operate as if I'm administrator. But on Linux, we call it like as a root user. So that's, or a super user. Whenever you ask to do a super user task, it's going to ask you for your password. Now, is that a good idea, guys? Yeah, it's great, because then this way, if someone did get access to my computer, they're blocked by a password. I put in my password, I've clicked OK. Now that is going through and connecting and doing its thing. And that is great, because then I'm going to be hopefully on their secure network. So once I've done that, I'm just going to move this across so I can have a little bit more space here. And we're going to kind of hide this tab and we're going to push it up so that I can focus on, because now that I've connected to the VPN, I don't really need to worry about it. I just want to focus on the task at hand. So I'll refresh this page and see if I have a new IP address. So here's the IP address which is provided to me, 10.4.48.1.208. Okay, 10.4.48.208. So if I just echo that out, just make sure this is working. And it's okay. Copy and paste clipboard. Oh, it's being really disgusting in terms of its formatting. I just want to kind of remember that that's my IP, guys. How else can I check my IP? Remember I taught you that command, like if config, like interface config. Oh my gosh, my fingers are all over the place this morning. I can search in here and look. Here's my interface, which I'm using to connect into their servers, and it's called Tunnel 0 because it's a VPN tunnel. Okay, and what's that using? That's using IP security in that aspect to connect. And here's that IP address which I've been allocated. That's really important because if I ever want to call back to my own computer, I know what my IP address is. Great. You'll see me use this command clear quite a lot so that I can keep it nice and clean for you. So we are connected to their network, but we need to make sure that I've started this computer that I want to attack. So I'm going to click the button Start Machine. It's going to start that machine for me. Yep, to access this machine, you need to use a VPN or use an attack box. I do have my VPN set up. Here it is. It's going to load. It's going to be available in about 60 seconds, and I've only got 2 hours to go through and hack it. Okay. Is this making sense so far while we wait for this to connect in? Is this making sense? This is basically just the setup, the install, the connection into the platform, setting myself up so that I'm ready to compromise this machine. There's Stephen Covey wrote this book called 10 Habits of Highly Effective People. 7 Habits, 10 Habits, maybe he added more. I forgot the title of it now. 7 Habits, I think it is. And one of the last habits is sharpening the saw. Sharpening the saw. And it's like you should spend like a whole day sharpening the saw before you cut down a tree, and then the tree should take you like minutes to cut down. And that's really what we're about. Let's set ourselves up for success, and then when we strike, bang, we'll be like ready to go. We don't want to just muddle our way through it because it will be, walking around the room, we'll be knocking things over, making lots of noise. We don't want to do that. Here we go. So we've now been provided the IP address to work with of the machine which we want to target. Sweet. So what's the first thing we want to do here, guys, to know that this machine's up? What's the first thing we might want to do? We've learnt about it. Remember Marco Polo? What was that called?
Ping the device.
Ping the device. Yeah, let's go through and let's ping the device. Okay. Ping, I'm going to put in the IP address. That's the target. I'm also going to go -C3. The reason I'm doing that is because otherwise, if I don't, it's going to ping indefinitely. It's going to be like Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo. I only want to have them 3 times. Okay. Oh, here we go. 64 bytes back. And the time is 264 milliseconds. Okay. Pretty quick. Now, this is a very interesting one. Remember I said about the more that we get, the more information that is freely shared by computers, the more that we can basically enumerate or understand about them. They might not realize that what they're displaying actually says a lot about them. Like, think about when you drive into work. If you see a car which has a license plate which says, hey, I'm from Victoria, or hey, I'm from this part of New Zealand, okay, you immediately get to know something about that person and then you go and you look at their back window and it says, this is my family, and it has their entire family listed on the back there. And you're just like, I didn't want to know anything about this person, but I now know what state they're from. I know how big their family is. I know who they've got in their family, how old they are. And I'm just trying to drive to work and be a normal person. This is basically the same thing. It's like how much information is being disclosed that doesn't need to be. So this TTL is known as a time to live. So when we send out these packets, I've taught you about the OSI model. When we send out these packets, if we didn't, remember I was talking about collision domains and things running into each other. If we sent them out and just imagine it never reached its destination. It's like, hey, where is device 10.10.10.1? And everyone, all the networks like, I don't know where that is. Just keep going, man. Packets would just live on the network indefinitely. And it would just clog up the network and it'll be super busy, and things would stop because you just got all this traffic which has no destination. Denial of service, that's what would happen, okay? So every time you have a network communication, you attach what's known as a time to live, which means that this will bounce around 125, 126, 127 times before it dies, before it is that you get rid of it, basically, and before it is dropped. It's just like once that time to live it reaches 0, the packet's dropped, and then that way you don't have that indefinite packet going around. If you were using Linux systems, they use time to live of 64. However, when Microsoft was creating Windows, they went, we don't want to do anything like Linux. We want to change it up. So we're going to use a time to live of 128. So by me just receiving a ping, which comes back and says the time to live is 125, I immediately know that this must be a Windows machine, as likely it is, because it's gone through 3 network devices and has decremented that time to live 3 times. Can you see just from that number, I know how this has traveled through the network? How crazy is that? So that's the idea about what information are you actually sharing? Do you realize that? That's cool. So what does Marco Polo tell me? Marco Polo tells me, the ping tells me that there is a machine on the other end of this line at that address. So now I can run my nmap command to try and map out the ports which are on it, okay? But remember I typed in this IP address, kind of annoying. I don't remember what this IP address is, 10.10.53.256. That's a lot to type. I know this computer's name is Blue. I want to type in Blue instead of typing this every time. So what am I going to do? I am going to edit what's known as my etc hosts file. You go, what's an etc hosts file? Right at the start of the week, I talked about what if a malicious actor could they could poison your DNS and basically say, hey, when you try and connect to google.com, you end up somewhere else. I'm going to be doing that. I'm basically going to tell my computer, hey, whenever you want to connect to 10.10.50, whenever I type the word Blue, I want you to go to this IP address. Okay, that's what I'm basically going to get it to do. So let me do this. So sudo, again, super user, I need to edit this file. Yep. And I've already got a couple of numbers in here. 127.0.0.1. Who's that? 127.0.0.1. Who is that? That 127.0.0.1 is me. It's localhost. Whenever you want to go through and ping yourself, you can just type in 127.0.0.1. That's what that means. There's a little bit of Now, guys, you go like, holy crap, is all of this on the exam? No, none of this is on the exam, guys. I'm just showing you like a penetration test methodology and approach, just so you have a higher level idea of it, okay? All right, so now if I type in ping Blue, okay, look at this. I get the same thing, okay? Perfect. That's easier for me because don't forget, I'm an engineer, I'm a hacker, I'm lazy, okay? I want to make my life easier. So the other thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that nmap scan. What are some other things I'm going to do with this nmap scan? Do I want to be loud, guys, or do I want to be sneaky? You tell me. You want to go loud? You want to go, or you want to take that stealth mode? I know some games are like, do whatever you want. Are you that person who runs in there and blows everything up? You want to like sneak in there and what do you want? What do you want to do, guys? Stealth. You want to do stealth? How many hands we got for stealth? Okay, all right. We'll be sneaky. If we want to be sneaky, we do what's known as a TCP SYN scan or a stealth scan. Well, what does that mean? Remember I showed you that TCP three-way handshake. I asked you to go through and review it. What steps happen in a TCP three-way handshake? Please tell me.
SYN attack.
Yeah.
Yep. So instead of attack, it's ACK, which means acknowledged. So it's synchronize, acknowledge. So I acknowledge you trying to synchronize with me, and then finally I acknowledge that I've received that back from you. So that's the three-way handshake. Now, as an attacker, what I can do is I can just send a SYN. Packet basically, and the other side can be like, all right, SYN-ACK. And I never complete the handshake, okay? So it's like basically like a half connect, which is really good because then you can basically not establish a full connection. It's faster, okay? And it's a little bit stealthy. However, if you're a firewall, if you were a firewall and you're a packet filter firewall, as in the very, very old one, you would go, whatever, that seems normal. because you have no idea about state. But as soon as you're a firewall which understands state, you go, wait a second, you didn't complete the TCP handshake. That's weird. Why would that happen? Maybe it's a malicious person.
There's going to be a log for it, right?
So how do I achieve that? I do a SS scan, which is basically saying it's a SYN scan, okay? And I am going to also identify what IP address I want to do it on, and I'm going to do this --open, which means that I only want to scan open ports. I don't want to waste my time on ports which are not open. I will also put in -A, which is going to get me OS, like operating system detection. So it's going to hopefully be able to fingerprint the operating system which I'm connecting to as well, based on the information which is served up to us. Okay, this is good. This is good. Guys, are we ready? We're in that dark room. We're about to go and do some enumeration and checking it out. Okay. You tell me when we're ready to hit fire. Okay. Because as soon as we do this, we stop moving from passive detection. We're moving to active. Okay. Yeah, I know. I can hear you all. I can hear you all just going like, whoa, Arj, stop. Where the hell is your written authorization? Where's your written authorization, Arj? What are you doing?
You've already tunneled in, though. Is that the breach already? Technically?
I mean, what? I've accessed their system. Their system. Okay. So technically it could be, but I mean, if I haven't done anything now to, actually affect them, maybe I might be okay, right? I might be okay. I mean, who knows? It depends on what my legal team's like, right? For how good it would be if they do catch me. I mean, have they even noticed me? Have I flagged anything on their security monitoring system yet? It's hard to say. But for the most part, what we would want to be doing here is definitely making sure that we had a approval before moving forward at all as well. So just let me see. Yeah, here you go. Sorry guys. Here we go. Here it is here. What's this? Authorization letter for penetration testing. I, John Doe, CISO tester and hereby authorized security consultants to conduct a penetration test on our Windows-based system. Okay. Great. This authorization is valid from today to tomorrow. They reserve the right to terminate this authorization. Look, I'm happy, guys. I got this. Let's
There's only one mobile though.
Yeah, I know, right? You call that mobile, you get someone pretty cool, I hear. I'm happy with this. I'm happy to proceed if you guys are. Yep, let's do this.
Have your face and voice distorted first?
That's all right. Let's do this. Okay, starting Nmap. Now, how long is this going to take, guys? It's like, I don't know, Arj, how long's a piece of string? Like, what a stupid question. All right, that's where we press spacebar and we get a bit of an idea. This says it's about 99.9% done. This can take a very long time, depending on how quiet you want to be. I can slow this down so it's not making a lot of noise if I wanted to. Because again, if I opened up something like Wireshark right now, am I going to open it up in fast enough time? Let's see. Let's have a bit of a look at what's happening on the network. Look at this. It is just, remember I showed you like 3 packets before? Look at all of the stuff that's being flooded out at the moment over that interface. So much stuff. Okay. So look at this. There's a bunch of SYN-ACKs being sent. Okay. SYN-ACK, ACK. So we're not even sending a SYN packet. We're just sending SYN-ACK packets. Isn't that weird? It's almost like, have you established a connection already? Like SYN-ACK. So again, there's a lot of weirdness which is getting sent out, and that's the whole idea behind this. Remember, we were talking about fuzzing, like malformed packets. Like, you're doing this to try and understand what it is you're connecting to and what you're talking to. And again, if I was a security operations center and I saw all of this weirdness like happening from a remote computer to mine, I'd be like, that looks like a network scan. Now, we talked about, if everyone remembers from 2001, amazing movie, The Matrix. There is a line in there where he says, look, you don't even see the woman in the red dress. Sorry, you don't even see the code. You just see the woman in the red dress. And that's really what our security analysts do when they see this. They go, I know exactly what's going on here, even though it just looks like gobbledygook to everyone else. And guys, we were looking at our Wireshark, but we have gotten some response back. We've gotten some response back. Let's have a look through this together. Let's see what information we have learned. Okay, so we have a scan report here. The host is up. It's pretty quick. I scanned on 1,000 ports, the top 1,000 ports, and 991 of them are closed. Okay. Why would they come back as closed? Because there's no services running on them. Remember, we said that you might reserve ports, but unless there's a service running on them, then they can be closed. Or if you have a firewall blocking them, then you can't see what's happening on them. But we can see that there's port 135, 139, 445. These are common Windows ports. So I know this is a Windows machine. Then there's this 3389. You're like, oh, what's going on here? This looks like it might be some kind of connection going on here. Then there's these other high ports here in 491 XX, which are just Windows remote procedure call, RPC. But what have we got here? It's worked out that this is Microsoft Windows 7 Professional 7601 Service Pack 1. Now, as a good penetration tester and as and not a hacker, okay, what's the difference between what a hacker does and what a penetration tester does?
Authorization.
Authorization, that's what I need to make sure I don't end up in jail. But why do you not just hire a hacker? Why do you hire a penetration tester?
Ethics.
Malicious.
Yep, they got ethics, but ultimately there's the one thing they provide is they provide a report of what they do. Okay, that's the whole point. So it might be really lame for you to watch me here going through and collect relevant information, but if I don't do a report, then I'm just a hacker. Okay, and even a good hacker will collect information and use that to provide them information and to reference back on later. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm going, hey, I'm going to grab some notes from this. So this is very valuable. This is all my enumeration. This is all that when we look at the cyber kill chain, all the information I need to create an effective weapon and to make sure that it can do what it needs to do and is highly targeted. Again, nation states, they make a highly targeted weapon. They don't make a weapon that might work 50% of the time. That's not good enough. We want to make sure that it is almost guaranteed to work. We want to simulate it as much as possible to then we go, hey, this is highly effective. Okay. So going back to these results. So we can see that it is Windows 7 Professional. We also see that the name of the system is John PC. Okay, we go, okay, well, we probably learn a little bit about the users. Probably his name's John as well. There's a bunch of either fingerprinting that we're getting off this as well. We can see that it's 4 hops away. Guess what? We already knew it was 4 hops away because we saw that time to live decrement by 3 before. Hey, there you go. And a hop, for those people who don't know, whenever you move from one device to a next, like that router where it actually has to, decapsulate that packet to read what's going on with it, okay, and encapsulate it back, okay, that's called a hop. That's when you decrement the TTL. Sweet. Yeah, there's some really good things here. We can see it's part of something called Workgroup as well. And so, yeah, we've gotten a lot of information here. How accurate is this information, guys? How accurate do we think it is? Take a guess, right or wrong. Doesn't matter.
If you can see it, I'd say accurate, because if they were smart enough, there'd be things in place so you couldn't see it.
So that's a really good response. There is a lot of information here which is directly captured. It's like this is what the relevant information is. However, it is relying on the information being provided by that other system to be accurate. Now, what do I mean by that? I remember where are we coming from? We are blue teamers here. I'm hoping you are blue teamers in that sense. So if you can fake certain information on your systems, you can make it very hard for an adversary. So if just say this was a Windows 10 machine, but I've spoofed it to make it look like a Windows 7 machine, I could have the adversary there crafting weapons and going, what the hell is going on? This should work. This works every time. Why is this not working? I've seen some savvy admins do that. And one of them was they created a website, and when you scan a website, you get what's known as the HTTP headers. So that's like the header information. And when they were looking at the headers, they were like, why is the version number for this 007? And then there was like this little line down the bottom which said Bond, James Bond. Like they deliberately changed the version and hidden it, so then that way it was very hard for the adversary. And the adversary reported it, and he just said like, who's the secret agent here? And there's just this like IT administrator at the back who's just like,
isn't that what's called honeypot?
Basically, you know what I mean? Like, so again, why am I showing you this? So you have an idea about what they see, so then you know what to defend against, and what information they use to move forward. So for me, I have gone through and I've had a look at this, and one of the things that, knowing it's a Windows machine now, or having a high likelihood that it is a Windows machine, there is something which Windows uses to allow for file transfers to other Windows devices, and to allow for, I guess, network file access as well. And it's what's known as Server Message Block, or SMB. It's built in. However, there's multiple different versions. There's version 1, there's version 2, and they've improved on them because of security considerations over the years. So I'm going, okay, so I'm getting some information here about SMB, and I know that SMB can be vulnerable. Okay, I know it can be vulnerable. However, I don't have any information here which tells me that it's vulnerable. So now that I've, touched around the room and gone, oh, there's a Windows machine here and it's got SMB. Now I need to go through and confirm if it's vulnerable. So let's go and do that, okay? That's the next command which I'm going to be going through and running, which is, let me find out a little bit more to see if I can determine if this is vulnerable. So what am I going to run on this? Now, SMB, it runs on port 445, which is the one where I was getting this information about the actual Windows desktop before. So I'm just going to go, hey, Nmap is a great network mapper. We talked about things like Nessus and Tenable being amazing vulnerability assessment tools for your wider enterprise. But what Network Mapper also has, Nmap, is a variety of different scripts which you can run. And anyone can create scripts for it using the NSE, the Nmap scripting engine. So I'm going to run a script which will hopefully check if it is vulnerable to any SMB flaws. So let's type this, let's try this again. As you can see, I'm doing a half scan as well. I'm going to identify -P this time, okay, which means that I can identify exactly which port I want to target. This one's going to type 445. I have to put the target in, this is blue, and then I'm going to put in my script, okay? My script is going to be SMB vuln ms17 010.nse. Now, before I jet into showing you're like, Arj, what the hell is ms17 010.0? Okay. I'm sorry, this is the problem. You have to go through and learn all these things to go, this is a critical vulnerability, ms17 010.0. Okay. What is this about? Published 2017. You go, oh, that's a little bit old now, isn't it? Hey, proof of concept, I'm going to show you. It kind of changed the world when this happened, okay? And again, another time for a little bit of story time. So we talk about nation state actors. We talk about how capable they are. We talk about government departments. Would you say your government department is highly capable? Maybe, okay? Maybe there's some really smart people inside your agency, and that's cool, but not everyone probably fits into that high 1 percentile market. And again, when we're talking about large nation states, they have some very clever people. So what they get them to do is to make things easier for those people who are less smart and are less genius. So they try and make things easy by going, hey, I could type all of these commands out in my sleep with my eyes closed, but I know you guys it would be easier if you could do the same thing with a point and click interface. And that's basically what they did. They went, oh, I'll make you it easy. So hacking becomes like, click here to hack. And they created things such as Eternal Blue. No, let's say Eternal Romance GUI. They created, this is what happens when you Eternal Blue GUI. They created these different user interfaces to make it really, really easy to hack machines. Unfortunately, what happened for this particular nation state is that they left behind a whole bunch of really easy to use, highly effective tooling on an infrastructure, and it was found, and it was leaked, and it was shared all across the internet. And they basically went, man, it exploited things within SMB, within server message block. And one of the particular nasty ones was this one called Eternal Blue, because it could affect all the Windows systems up to that point. Again, look, this exploit was used by a 3-letter agency, which gave them back-end access to things such as Windows XP and Windows 7 at the time. Yes, someone was jumping in there. Nope, disregard then. So this is a really capable attack. Really capable attack. If you want to learn more about this Eternal Blue, there is a great YouTube video from Black Hat where they talk all about it, unlocking the secrets of Eternal Blue. This is it here. Again, the shadow brokers, if you've heard that term, were the ones who released these exploits, okay? And again, it's targeting Microsoft Windows SMB v1. So I know this is for Windows 7. I know it's attack for Windows 7. What I'm targeting here, it looks like a Windows 7 machine. So that's why I want to use it. I'm tying it back to this Microsoft security vulnerability, MS17010. That's what it was, the vulnerability in SMB, and that's what I'm going to scan against. Does that make sense? Thank you very much, Jake, for dropping that in there. That's what we're going to scan against. Let's do it. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to have a little scan, see if we can find something. Okay. See how I just get one response back just on that port because we identified that one port. And come down here, vulnerable to remote code execution vulnerability in SMB v1. Okay, risk factor is high. If we wanted to look up the CVE, which we already have on the left-hand side of the screen there, I could look it up there as well. If I wanted to look it up on MITRE and other CVE databases, I could do that as well. It's all there for us. So this is really great. This is really great. This is giving me a potential opportunity to get into this machine. Now, if we come back to our cyber kill chain, this is allowing me to weaponize an attack. Okay, this is allowing me to weaponize an attack. So what I want to do now is see if there's a way which I can weaponize this, or if a weapon's already created for me. So remember we talked about things like exploit DB. Okay, I could look up exploit DB and I could look up MS170-0. I could look that up and look, there's a whole bunch of different exploits here ready to go. Look, they're validated that they even work as well. How cool is that? If I click into one of them, for instance, okay, this one says this module requires Metasploit to run. Okay, Metasploit. Okay, what is Metasploit? Remember a second ago, I was telling you that we want to make our lives easier. If I could make a framework which allows me to almost point and click hacking, that would make my life hella easier and a lot faster. Because again, I have potentially lots of clients. The more things I can hack, the more money I can get, the more organizations I can get into. So I make my life easier. So there's something here called Metasploit, which is the world's most used penetration testing framework. It's one of the most popular ones, okay? It's also, a lot of people hate using it. And it's very funny why a lot of people hate using it. It's a bit of a issue with the time, something to be aware of for you. OffSec has got the most popular certification, the OSCP, which a lot of penetration testers have to do. It's like their HR bypass. It's the certification they need before you can get hired as a penetration tester. And as part of doing that certification, you need to do a 24-hour hacking exam of 6 machines, and you need to then write a report up in the next 24 hours. So no sleeping, guys. That's how crazy it is. It's intense, right? But you know what is also the really interesting thing about that? You can only use Metasploit once. So this beautiful framework that makes things dirt easy, you can only use it once. Why? Why would they do that, guys? Why would they have that? Because they want you to understand the fundamentals. They want you to understand the basics. They want you to understand why things do. When you abstract it away and you make it point and click, then you miss the learning. So that's the idea behind it. But once you've passed that, hey, you're cleared live to use Metasploit as much as you want in that sense. No one's stopping you. I mean, it's got a lot of signatures which kind of like show up that you're using it. But apart from that, and today, you know what? We are cleared live to go through and use Metasploit. So we will use it to show you just how easy it is to use. So I'm going to clear this screen so then we kind of know what we're working with. Again, don't get too distracted. I'm going to write in sudo msf console. Okay, what is that? Metasploit framework console. Bang that in there. Now, when we open it up, it usually comes up with a fun little ASCII art here. Look, MSF, nice. Okay. And what have we got in here? This has got 2,376 exploits, 1,000. So look, we can hit a lot of things here with this. This is great. It's even got evasion payloads, 9 evasion payloads, so it can invade like antivirus suites and stuff like that as well. How much does Metasploit cost, guys? It's free. This thing's free, guys. I've got free Linux distribution, free hacking tools. This is crazy. Now that when you talk about script kiddies, they can be literally 8 years old and they can hack because they've got free access to all this stuff. So now that I'm in here, I want to search for Eternal Blue. I want to find out like where are the payloads that I've got in here. I've looked it up on ExploitDB. It's got to be inside here somewhere. So when I search for that, I get a bunch of different results here. I've got this first one, and it says rank average. Oh, I don't want that. Okay. There's this one down the bottom here. Exploit Windows SMB double pulsar RCE rank. Great. Why would it say average and great? What do you think this means when we say rank? What are we thinking there, guys? Again, no right or wrong answers. Just throw me your thoughts. What are your ideas?
Your success rate, like the chance of you, getting the vulnerability.
So, if you watch that video, which has been linked there, Unlocking the Secrets of Eternal Blue, it's a long Black Hat video, very technical. What they talk about is what Microsoft do a decent job at coding. Don't get them wrong, okay? So when you're trying to exploit something, we're actually, you know what we're doing? Believe it or not, we're trying to enact a buffer overflow. That is what Eternal Blue is doing. It is doing a buffer overflow attack. And it doesn't always work. It doesn't always work. It's got about a success rate about 1 in 6. But the thing is, you just automate it. So it can fail, success. That's fine, right? However, it would be ideal if it could just do it once and it would work. So that's why when we talk about rank great, that means that it's more likely to work, and you're going to have more success with it. However, we're not here to just show success. We're here to go through and show a process, show how things work. So I'm just going to do use exploit. Okay, then I can see it written out here. You know, I could even make my life really easy by just copying it here, because again, wouldn't that be easy if I just do that? So I can type that in like that. And now I've chosen to use that exploit. That's the one which I want to go through and use, which is the standard Eternal Blue. And it says there rank average. So we'll have to see how this goes, right? Now I've gotten this error here. No payload configured. Defaulting to Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. Oh boy, what does that mean, guys? So when we are weaponizing, okay, we might exploit and break something so then we can achieve remote code execution. Remember? So we can run our own evil code. Remember I showed you on the camera. It's probably good to bring it back so we remember, because I talked about a lot of stuff.
And just with this, are you able to exploit this because they haven't patched it? Like, is
Yep.
that the theory? Okay.
That's the theory. So remember, I'm trying to cause it to have a buffer overflow so then I can run my evil code. That's the idea. Okay. However, what is the evil code I want it to run? That is what the payload is, right? It's what is it that you actually want us to do now that we've broken the system? And that's what I need to go through and identify now. So it's defaulted to using what's known as Windows x64, meaning it's a 64-bit operating system. Did we know if this is a 64-bit operating system, guys, that we're targeting? Oh my God, I cleared the screen. Where's all that information I had, that network scan? Do I have to do it again? No, because we took notes. We took notes, guys. That's why we take notes. Okay, we got it all in here. We don't want to be constantly throwing out scans. We don't have to. This is saying it's Windows 7 Professional, but I actually I don't know if it is a 64-bit computer or if it's a 32-bit computer, based on the information which I have here, which is potentially a bit of a problem. This is, the more information you can have when you weaponize, the better you can. The more likely it's going to work. So I'm going to have to take a guess here. Okay. I'm going to have to be like, oh man, this is no good. I'm going to have to take a guess. And therefore that's not good as well. I'm just having a quick look here and I'm like, no, I'm not seeing anything telling me about the architecture. So, oh wow, I'm going to have to take a guess. So it's saying it's going to be that. It's going to use Meterpreter. Now, what is Meterpreter? Time to draw a picture. Okay, time to draw a picture. So here's us over here, okay? We are being very, very malicious, okay, with our skull and crossbones machine. Mwahaha. Man, he can't draw bones, can he? We are malicious. We are over here, and we have been trying to connect into this, very, very, very nice machine over here that is called Blue. Now, when we send this, very corrupted Eternal Blue, I'm just calling it EB, okay, attack, we then need this to execute that payload that I was telling you about. What's the payload we want it to run? What we want it to do is we want it to create a connection back to us, ideally. We want to create a connection back to us. Now, why would we want to do that, guys? Could we just, from our own computer, just like connect to a port on that PC? Could we do that? Is that an option we would have? Could we just be like, hey, I want to make a connection directly to you, and I want you to allow me to execute code on your computer. So that would be like remote code execution. I want to do that. Can I do that with this machine? Could I initiate it that way?
I think you could initiate it, but there'd be no confirmation that you're doing anything.
Yep. Good response. I am going to give you another thought. Okay. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would anyone want to remotely just have an unknown host connect into their machine and allow them to do stuff? You kind of don't. It's highly unlikely. The only time you'd want that to happen is if it was an administrator, and they would be connecting from somewhere within the internal network, from usually what we call things like jump boxes, okay, or authorized administrative machines. And they can use different modules, such as like proven modules, such as things known as like PS exec and using something called PowerShell remoting. There's authorized ways of doing it. You only want the authorized ways to be available, right? You don't want to just be like, hey, just anyone can dial into me, like it's an open phone. That's why you don't expose it. That's why generally we talked about like hosts have these firewalls, which are built into their device, right? Which block any port which isn't needing to be seen by the external world. And basically that means they block any port which is trying to connect directly into them from external. If we did, it would be called binding with that computer, and creating a bind shell. And that's it's usually no good. We never want that to happen. But you know what we can say? This machine is trusted. And if it wants to connect externally to someone else, it can do what it wants, right? It's the firewall is going to deny more things coming in than it is going to deny things going out. Because if Blue couldn't get out and do what it wanted, it would be highly restricted, right? It would be highly restricted. It'd be like, come on, man, I just want to do my thing. So it can go through and create its own shell back. Okay, and this is called a reverse shell. Okay, and why is it called a reverse shell? Because obviously it's going backwards. It's reversing back to that machine. So what I need to do here is I'm going to use this Eternal Blue exploit to allow me to do a buffer overflow. And the payload is going to be reverse shell. It's going to say, Blue, connect back to this machine. And guess what machine it's connecting back to? My malicious machine. That's what our payload is. So we see in here, this is saying it's going to do a reverse TCP shell back to us. TCP is what's going to connect using. So that's really great.
Most common?
When you're practicing, yes, it is the most common because it uses standard protocols and things like that. You can do HTTP shells. You can do a whole variety of different ones, but this is probably one of the most common, which is why you see it's defaulting to it as well. Depends on your attack vector to what is appropriate. You can use shells over PHP and all kinds of different web technologies, depending on, again, what your entry point is. This is a pretty interesting entry point that we've got here. Again, if it's patched, it's not accessible, but we're using an unpatched system here. So that's what it's going to default to, okay? Beyond this, I need to show what other options I've got. What other things do I need to tune to weaponize this? There you go. I made a misclick. I typed show options, says show options. So I need to set up the actual target. What am I trying to hit? So I could go set rhosts to Blue, because that's the name of it. It's going to use that port 445. It's saying here, what's the SMB pass? What's the SMB username? Oh, I don't know that, guys. I don't know what that is. However, see where it says here required? No, it's not required. So I could put it in if I wanted to, but it's not required. So that's fine. Look at that, unauthenticated, and I can still launch this attack. Crazy, right? It also says, what's your local host port which you want this to connect back to? Whoa, that doesn't look right. What was my local host port which I had on my computer here? Yeah, that was it here. 10.4.48.208. So I've got to make sure I set it to that. So set alhost. Set alhost to 10.4.48.208. 10.4.48.208. So what am I doing here? I'm basically telling this reverse shell to connect back to 10.4.48.208 because that's my address. I also need to specify. So this is layer 3. What do I need to do at layer 4, guys? If we talked about the OSI model. What does layer 4 handle in terms of the transport layer? It deals with something beginning with P, ending with AUT.
Protocol.
Yep. We need to identify what port we want to connect back on. Because otherwise it's going to come to my front door and be like, go to the front of the apartment building. It's not going to know which apartment it needs to go to. So we have to identify which port. And we're going to say we're going to use port 4444 for this one. Because, that's easy. So let me just check again what port is set at the moment. There you go, local port 4444. It's already set. Okay. So I'm just going to type in show payloads just to see what other options of payloads I would have had in here as well. And there's a whole bunch of different ones I could have asked. And that was the question just before is this the most common? And look, there's 73 different payload options I could use in here if I really wanted to as well. The particular one which we are using is this one here. Okay. And I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to go set payload to 60 just to make I know this particular one works, so I'm going to use that. Guess what, guys? Guess what? We are ready to go. We are ready. We have weaponized this, and so if I go show options, we have everything in here needed to be able to launch the attack. Let me go back to our cyber kill chain. How are we going to be delivering this? We're delivering it over the network. And now it's time to move to step 4, exploitation. Okay? Are we ready? You tell me. You tell me. This is when, if we don't have that written authorization form, this is all bad juju. This is when rubber hits the road. You let me know. You can't. Someone tell me. Give me thumbs up. Give me clear. You know, I want 2 keys here turning in. I want to make sure we're good. Look, we got 2 thumbs up. All right, ready, set, go. Okay. Bam. Start a reverse TCP handler. Identified that the target is vulnerable, and it is going through and starting to send in the exploit. Now, remember I told you, we looked and it said that this is an average style attack. It may not work. You watch that video, they'll explain why. It's trying to groom through memory. It is trying to make sure that this exploit lands and they get to the right memory location with that buffer overflow. It doesn't always work. So we could be here and we could be here for a long time and it could just be like, nah, we're landing with nothing, okay? We will know we're successful. We will know we're successful when we receive that reverse shell back. What's a reverse shell? That's like a command prompt. I showed you that on Windows earlier on this week where I was like, you can use PowerShell, you can use command prompt to basically interface with everything. You don't have to use the graphical user interface. As an administrator, it's faster to do that. So as a hacker, that's what I'm going to be seeing. But here you go. Look at this, first try, and there's this big thing here which says fail, fail, fail. And you go, Arj, I thought you were decent at this. Nope. Fail. First try, no good, okay? But we keep on going. Now, what are we seeing if we were looking at this on the wire, okay? Okay, we're back here looking at Wireshark. What's going on the wire? There's a whole bunch of stuff happening here, guys. But look, it's stopped. Why is it stopped? Why is it stopped?
We have system shell.
Got him. Got him. Here we go, guys. What's this? That's a Windows shell. We are popping shells, guys. That's what it's talking about. We are in. We are in. All right. All right. So, that's what we're talking about. We have effectively landed on this machine and we have done an exploit so we can execute vulnerable code, and it has given us a reverse shell called back to our system, and now we have access. But where are we? The first command we run, which you would never run on your own machine. You would never run this. This is why it's the most weirdest command, and you should always flag for it whenever you see it, is this. Who am I? And it tells me what level of control I have of that system and who I'm logged in as. Why would you never run this command on your own PC if you're a legitimate user?
Who you are.
Because you should know what access you do and don't have and who you are.
You should know who you are. Exactly. Here we go. I'm going to I'm accidentally opening up another system there. I'm going to write in terminal on my Mac here, okay? And I will also type in who am I, okay? And it tells me who I am. If that's a surprise to me, I should really go see a doctor, okay? So that's why you would never run it. Hackers always run it because they need to, they have landed in that dark room, but now they're inside a machine. They need to work out who they are, what level of access they are, what they can do, okay? That is this next step, right? Okay. We've got here, we basically did a little bit of exploitation installation at the same time. Oh, I haven't actually installed any malware on here at all yet. I've just created that reverse shell connection back. But I need to understand where I am at. I need to understand what computer I'm on. What can I do? So let's see what other commands I would actually run. So this is a shell. This is a Windows shell. So if I was actually on the Windows machine, I would see something like this. That's all well and great. Okay, I can type in who am I /priv, which is going to show me my privileges. And it's going to say, hey, here are a whole bunch of privileges and access you have. I can also say net user groups And I can also see, I'm getting that wrong, net user groups. So you see this? This is also a good thing to look for. Mistyping, because for some reason that is like completely missed me why that command isn't working. But we can hackers will often do mistakes, typos, whatever the case is. Sometimes it's hard to use control like command control Z control can't talk. Control C, Control V. It's very hard to paste. Whenever I press the up button, instead of me going back to a previous command I had, I'm getting all these weird characters. I can't easily go back and fix any typos I make. So this isn't good for me. It's not fun to operate in this environment where I make typos and mistakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade my connection. I'm going to upgrade the shell I have. So how I can do that, okay, is I can press Control Z, okay, and this will background this session for the moment. You go, whoa, you were just connected to the computer. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just pausing it. I'm pulling the background. And if I had 100 machines I was connected to, I could do all of that. I could have them all backgrounded. I could have multiple connections going at a time. It was crazy, but I want to make this better. How do I make it better? I can upgrade this shell to a Meterpreter shell. That's what it's called. Upgrade shell to Meterpreter shell. So shell to Meterpreter is what I want to look for. I need to find out how I can do that. Here we go. Here's the option right there. So I'm going to say use 0. Okay. And now I can just execute this basically, but I have to see what options I have to set. Do I have to set any options? Okay, I just need to know what session I'm running. So if I just type in sessions, okay, a session, I've got one session there, which tells me that I'm connected to Microsoft Windows. This is the IP that it's connected back to. This is the port that it's on. Hey, look, that's me. We talked about that. And this is the remote connected port of where it is connected to. So this is the one I want to upgrade so then I can have more capability. And it makes my life easier. Okay, so I'm going to go set session 1. Okay. And then what do I do now? I go run. Okay. Upgrading. So I'm going to have more capability now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this works. Okay. And does it always work? Sometimes it doesn't. Let's go show sessions again. Okay. It looked like it didn't work. and sometimes that happens, right? So we're going to go through and run it again and be like, hey, you little son of a bitch, let's actually work this time. It's saying it should be working, but it also, when I list it, it doesn't show that it's working. I'm looking for something saying Meterpreter. So unfortunately, we were talking about, hey, sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. Oh, look, something's stopping. Sometimes it's inconsistent. And that is pretty normal when you're talking about hacking something, because you're basically breaking what was intended to be a normal function, and you're making it do something weird, which sometimes they handle it differently. I'm going to see if there is a session there. I just can't see it. No, there's not. I'm going to try running it one more time. Otherwise, I'll change the port on it. So this is when we say like hacking, it really is about, oh, this is looking positive. It's really about persistence. Here we go. Let's see if I go sessions L now, which is sessions list, I can see I have a new session there. I have a new connection. So I want to use that session and I want to jump back into it. So how I would do that is type in session I for interact and then 2. And now I've jumped into it. So it's about persistence, about curiosity, because if something doesn't work, why doesn't it work? Why is it inconsistent? How do we deal with it? How do we improve it? Now I'm in what's known as a Meterpreter shell. So why you went, it seems like you wasted a bunch of time getting in the shell. What's so good about it? I'm going to type in help. And what are some of the things that I can do when I'm in this Meterpreter, or remember Metasploit is basically what this is, this Metasploit framework. What are the things that I can do which might be really, really helpful for me? Okay, there's a whole bunch of different stuff in here. Show me some cool stuff, Arj. Show me why you bothered. All right, cool. I can literally just type in sysinfo and I can get some more information about the machine. And it's going to do a whole lot of background processes to find out. Oh, look, here you go, John PC. I find out that it is using that architecture of x64. That's really great, okay? Awesome. I wish I had that information earlier on as well, right? The other thing I can do is I can actually get, screenshot, grab a screenshot of the interactive desktop. Huh, I can do that. Do you want to see that? Maybe I can see what this person's doing. Screenshot shave to. Okay, I'll go and I'll have a look at that screenshot, guys. There you go. Literally got an image of their screen, guys. Huh. Isn't that creepy as? Okay. You think that's creepy? I can turn on their webcam. List the webcams. Play a video stream on a specified webcam. Record the audio on their microphone. Who's getting freaked out now? Okay. I can play an audio file if I want to scare the hell out of them. But these are the ones I really want. Hash dump. Dump the contents of the SAM database. Arj, what the hell is a SAM database? Do I need to know what that is? Security account manager. So remember I've talked to you about passwords. Remember we've talked about hashing passwords. So you want to hash a password so you're not just storing a password in clear text. Because if someone went for, I'm just going to search on your computer, search passwords.txt, and they could find all your passwords, like it's game over so quickly, right? So you want to store them in a hashed format. But again, even if you have a very weak password, the hashes will be the same if there's no other salting or anything like that occurring. How does Windows protect you even more? It stores them in something known as the SAM, which means it means it's hidden away that only if you have the highest levels of access can you actually access that database. Well, guess what? We are NT authority. We are system. We are root. We have all the power we need on this system. So I can just type in hash dump and look at this. I have just dumped the hashes of this system. Dumped the hashes of the system. Yeah. It's got here administrator, and I've literally got the hashes for the system here, which I could then use to move further in the network, or I could crack those hashes so then I can get a bit of an idea of what the passwords are, the underlying passwords. It's all here. They've even got John down here, John's password and his hash down here as well. So again, if I was an effective penetration tester, I'd be copying these. I'd be putting these into my notes to go, hey, I managed to get these credentials. Because what happens with credentials, guys, credentials get reused. So if you were a administrator, you may have a really cool password called Chewbacca is the best. And then you've used that across all of the different network devices and infrastructure within the whole domain. If you get a domain administrator's password, they're the ones who have the keys to the kingdom. You get that, you got access to everything. Like it's done. How easy has this been, guys? How easy is it for a hacker to do this? Like, we're taking it slow, walking through it, but as you can see, it is like real straightforward to do this stuff. Anyone could go through and pick this up if they're just given a little bit of guidance, okay? But why am I here? My job, you hired me as a penetration tester. You didn't hire me to break in and that's it. That's just breaking and entering. You hired me to do something, didn't you? You hired me to do something. What would you have hired me to do?
Write a report.
Write a report to identify your vulnerabilities, sure. But what are my objectives? What are my actions on objectives? What am I really trying? What am I trying to achieve here?
Wouldn't that depend?
Wouldn't that depend? When you ask someone to do a penetration test for you, I would recommend that you give them a goal and say, I want you to try and access the corporate database for XYZ, maybe for our top secret supply chain inventory. And they go, cool. You go, I'm not going to tell you where it is, but I want you to do that. And that's basically what my goal is. My goal was this is like a foothold into your network. I'm on one PC. This is not the end state. what I want to be doing is finding out what I'm connected to. Again, we're in this dark room. I've completely owned this machine now. I look legitimate. I've got John's credentials. I can move around laterally if I need to. But what I need to know is where I'm going to go. So some of the ways you can do that is by on the actual machine, you can type in like an IP config and find out what this machine is connected to, what else is on the network. I can also find out netstat, and what netstat is doing is telling me what ports are open and what connections are being made. So I have a bit of an idea about where else in the network I can go. Again, you don't have to remember all these. This is just something to be aware of.
Could they set conditions saying you can't use who am I? Because that's easy, right?
Yeah,
you can use who am I.
But that's just, again, you take away one tool, I'll use a different tool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what Hacker wants to do is, you saw, this is the really interesting, something really interesting about this, right? You saw here how it says like installing malware on the asset. And that's why I say it's a little bit of like the kill chain's a little bit of an older model. What's the problem with me installing malware on this computer?
You'll alert that.
When I install something, I leave a trace. I leave evidence behind. Did you know that while I'm running Metasploit, I am just existing in the RAM? So when the computer gets turned off, there's no evidence of me being here on that PC. There is evidence in the network. Remember, that's why I said network forensics is so important, because they'll go, hey, there was a whole bunch of connections made, and then there was a remote encrypted connection, which is made to that computer. But then that's all they see. So as soon as I start installing stuff or dropping like executables and binaries on the hard drive here, I'm leaving traces behind. So I'm going to avoid doing that as much as possible. I'm going to stay within my RAM environment if I can as well. So that's something to be aware of. However, my actions on was to try and find, maybe there's some things on this machine, PC, that are useful for me. So I'm going to just kind of type in dir, which is basically like a directory listing. What is on this machine? What am I looking at? And unfortunately, I was in the Windows folder, which means I get to see bloody everything, which is not what I wanted. I'm just going to type in shell, and I'm going to type in cd. I taught you that's change directory. I want to get out of Windows, and I want to go and have a look around the computer. If I want to look what's happening on the PC and actually kind of get a directory listing, like when you're in Windows Explorer and you see everything that's in the folder, I type dir. And you can see there's something there called flag1.txt. So whenever you use these environments like try hack me, hack the box, they leave what's known as flags. That flag is what you need to find, and then you put the code which is inside the flag into their environment, so that way you kind of confirm that you achieved that goal. So how can I look at this flag? I can just type flag1.txt or type flag1.txt, and you'll see that it's given me this like little code here called flag, access the machine. So if I know there's a flag 1, there's probably a bunch of different other flags as well. So let's type in a command to search across the computer to see if I can find any more flags. Now, if I know that there's something called flag 1, there's probably a flag 2. So this particular directory listing command will search for flag 2, and we'll do it recursively across the machine. See if I can find it. All right, cool. It's just come back and saying that inside the Windows folder, system32 config, there is a flag2.txt. So I could type that out as well if I wanted to. I'll copy that and paste that in because I'm lazy. There you go. SAM database elevated access flag. I found that as well. What should I do next, guys? Maybe search for a flag 3. See if there's a flag 3. Now, why is this so easy for me to go through and find? Because I know commands which are helpful for me to search. What if you didn't know what you were looking for? Maybe you could run a bunch of things going search for passwords, search for top secret information. Again, there's a variety of different commands you could use. And this is saying within the user's John documents folder, there is a flag 3 as well. So I could type that out just for posterity to kind of close this off. Whoops. Again, mistype. And that one's admin documents can be valuable is the flag there. So here we go. I showed you a variety of ways to go through it and access, maybe actions on objectives when you're actually there and how to get user accounts. The last thing I wanted to talk about was hashing. So I managed to get that. I did that hash dump. I'm going to do that hash dump again. Background. Interpreter. Let's see. I want to get back to the interpreter shell bugger. Exit. Okay, here we go. I did this hash dump before where I got the hashes. Now, in a Windows environment, it's a little bit quirky. I don't even need to know the password of someone, and I can do what's known as an attack called pass the hash, which is I could literally just take this hash, say I'm John, and therefore I could access another machine using that hash. You go, well, what the hell was the point of the hashing it if you can just use that? And you're like, yeah, I know. It's frustrating because what the computer is basically doing is it's going, does this hash equal this hash? Or if I hash this password, does it then equal that hash? So it's just, from a hacker's perspective, you're like, it's like, unfortunately, that's how Windows is designed. They can't get around it. And it's just really great from a hacker's perspective. How have they managed to avoid this? They moved to things like Kerberos authentication, which is what's now the standard default on a Windows domain. However, having a hash is great, but I really do want to know the underlying password. I do want to know what John's password is if I can. So how are we going to find that out? I'm going to try and crack this hash. I'm going to try and find out and guess what the password is behind it. Okay. So how do I do that? I'm going to go and I'm going to copy this and we're going to put it into a hash cracking program. Hash cracking program.
So if this was a MacBook, would you have to know different things, like different codes, commands, and rules?
How fascinating. Okay. What a great question. So does anyone know what the underlying operating system or where Mac OS originated from?
Unix.
It was originally Unix. Now, what is Unix? Unix was the proprietary operating system back in the day, which was used at like universities and a bunch of different other agencies, and you had to pay for it. It was very expensive, and it was really tight, and you couldn't afford it as a student. So there was a guy called Linus Torvalds who went, "I'm going to make my own," because some people are that clever. Right? I'm just going to make my own. It's going to be open source. It's going to be freely available. And I'm going to call it this horrible name. And the mate he was working with said, no, that's terrible. Let's call it Linux. And Linus was like, no, that's really obnoxious naming it after me. And he's like, too bad. It sounds cool. So Unix was the original. Linux is the one which is now open source and freely available. However, they're basically the same thing, guys. All of the commands which work on Linux, work on Unix, work on Mac for the most part. So do you need to do different commands if you're on a Mac? Slightly. However, they're very similar to Linux. Do you need to do different commands if you're on a Windows machine than a Linux machine? Yes, you do. Okay, they deliberately, like that TTL, they made deliberate choices to separate them and make them different. To be annoying, really, but really to be like, we want to separate ourselves. Like instead of doing forward slashes, you have to do backslashes. Super annoying stuff like that. Some commands are identical. Okay, instead of doing dir to get a directory listing, you type in ls to get a directory listing, which is like list on a Mac and on a Linux machine. Cool. So I realize that this is very difficult to see. So let's get a little bit of growing happening here, so then we can see what the hell Arj is doing. So hopefully it's going to work. I have that hash. I want to crack it. I could use my virtual machine there to crack the hash. However, what is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is faked hardware, abstracted hardware from the actual underlying machine. And I get to choose, just say if I've got 4 CPUs, I could choose for this virtual machine, I only want to allocate 1. I might have 2 graphics processors, and I say for this virtual machine, I only want to allocate 1 graphics processor, which means I limit its capability. Okay. you go, okay, Arj, so why do I care about you limiting the capability? Well, let's look at a hash cracking rig. Let's see what these are, okay? This is a kind of rig you'd use to crack passwords, okay, and crack hashes, I should say. What are we looking at here? What are we looking at?
GPU.
This is called the Kraken. This one. What are we looking at? Anyone jump in if you know. That's okay. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 graphics cards, which are probably about $1,500 to $2,000 each at the time when this was created. So that is $20,000. Sorry, $15,000 to $20,000 worth of parallel processing potential, all tied together with lots of fans to cool it down, which is used for cracking passwords, cracking hashes. So you need a lot of grunt to be able to do this fast, okay? Which is why when I'm using my computer here, I want to do it on my underlying, on my computer as close as possible. I don't want to do it through virtualization. You can do it, but it's slow, very slow. And also Linux doesn't handle graphics cards as well as something like Mac or a PC does directly. So that's why when I do this, I'm going to be doing it on my main, directly on the main PC here when I'm doing it. So that gives you a little bit of an insight, okay? Now, where did I store my my Hashcat? Hashcat, that's the name of a hash cracking software. Okay. I stored it inside a folder called Hashcat here. I'm fairly sure. Okay. One sec, guys. I recently changed this, so I want to make sure I get the right place. It might even be under download. Okay. CD deck. Okay. Okay. Don't mind me. Okay. Okay, what am I doing? I'm literally just trying to navigate around to Hashcat to try and find out where we're going to execute this from. Okay, and if this works, I should be able to type in hashcat-m and put in the right mode for the hashes I want to break. And then I have to allocate where my actual hashes are stored, which is going to be on the desktop. That's where I store them hashes. Okay. But there is something I haven't done yet. I haven't actually edited that file to make sure that I have the new hash in there. So let's do that before we get too excited. Put that hash in there on the desktop. Hashes. Whoops. Open up the wrong thing. Okay. Okay, so this is John's hash that I'm saving in here because, again, you need a location of where you're storing your hashes and before you actually crack them, of course. Then there's something else you need to do. So how do we crack a hash? Remember, we can't decrypt the hash. That's not actually what we're doing. What we are doing instead is what sounds like a horrible way of doing these kinds of things. We get the algorithm, and what we are doing is we're trying to hash a whole bunch of other passwords, like a whole bunch of other words, to see if one of those words ends up with the exact identical hash once it's hashed. So if, just say John's password was password 123, when I hash password 123, I end up with an identical hash. That's basically what you're doing. It's like reverse engineering it, right? By going, if I guess this, is this accurate? That's the idea behind it. And you go, well, that seems really, really, really inefficient. You go, well, it is if you couldn't automate it and get a computer to do it for you. It would be really sucky, but again, we're very fortunate that I can just get a computer to do it for me, so it's not too bad. Let's make sure I get this right. So we go, what word list do you use then? How do you know what like a list of potential words to use? Well, you can use something default. There's a very popular word list called RockU, which is what is commonly included on Kali Linux, which has a whole bunch of like the top passwords. You know, I showed you them online, top 200 passwords and stuff like that. But if you were doing a true engagement, what you would do is you would also add to that word list. You'd add in corporate words that are probably relevant to your workplace, i.e. you might have ACT government, you might have a whole bunch of different words. You might even have like, you know, summer 2024 and stuff like that added in because you know that they're common passwords used by people in your area or industry. Okay, if this works, and it may not, okay, I will try and crack that hash for John, and we're going to do it really quick. This may not work. I might be in the wrong folder because I have a bunch of different hashcats. We will see if this works. Okay. Let's see. I hit enter and it says, hey, look, I'm going to try and crack this for you, but I'm having an issue. Something is not working for me. Something is not working for me. So I'm going to go, okay, I'm sorry. I believe that one of the issues that I'm having with this particular one is the certain device I'm using is trying to use the graphics processor and it's not working on this model. So I'm just going to try using a different command, which will hopefully now just use the CPU. It's going to be slower, but this should be an easy to crack password anyway. That's the hope. So that was really quick. That took like less than a second, didn't it? And what have we got here? Status, cracked. It was a network, NTLM, Network LAN Manager. That's what we use for Windows, okay? That was the hash which was requested. Now we just need to know what the actual cracked hash was. That's it there. ALQFNA22. That's their password. Do you see how quick that happened? You go, but that looks like a really weird complex password, Arj. ALQFNA22. And you saw on a MacBook how quickly that was cracked. Wow. And I wasn't even using a graphics card then because it wasn't working for me. Okay. Whew. Breathe in. We are closing off. We're about to close off what we've been working towards this whole time, guys. I'm about to show you where we're all leading to at the end of the day. Okay. So I have showed you how we can exploit this machine, which is a malicious way of accessing it. It looks malicious. Well, you know what? There's other things we could do. We could set ourselves up so then that way we can access it like a legitimate user if we wanted to as well. There's so many things you can do to make it easy for yourself in future. Because again, remember we talked about if I did a malicious way of getting in, once they find out that I'm in there, they could then just, kick me out. I think I've accidentally just dropped my, I accidentally dropped my session because I wasn't paying attention and I did the wrong thing. But for the most part, now that I have John's password, I could legitimately log in as a normal user if I wanted to. I just have to open up more ports. So remember how I drew you this picture, okay? And I said, me trying to directly connect in for remote code execution, there's nothing open. I can't actually connect in. There's no hole. There's nothing waiting for me to call back. But you know what I could do? Now that I had access to Blue, I could open up holes in that firewall and I could allow for me to do what would look like legitimate admin access. I could do that if I wanted to. And you know why my life is so much easier? Because I have a username, John, and I have their password, which is, what was it? It was like ALFQN2 or something like that. I could then legitimately access it. So I note that I've gone like 15 minutes over where you would normally have a break time. So if you can indulge me, I will have 2 minutes and I will try and get that open access and I'll show you it and then we can go on a break. Okay, let's do it. Would have been a whole lot quicker if I hadn't have accidentally closed down my session before. But you know what? That's life. We just deal with it, don't we? We just go, yeah, well, whatever. Arj, if you remember correctly, we wanted to go through and use our exploit for MS17 and Eternal Blue. Now, the problem with this, now that I'm running it a second time, what could someone tell me what a problem with this might be? Because I had to do a buffer overflow, remember it gets it into a weird condition. This straight up may not work again. Because I broke it once, it straight up may not work again. That hole is like kind of like now malformed and it just might not work. Which is a damn shame, right? But I'll give it a go anyway. And we'll see. We'll see, guys. And yeah, anyone got any questions while I'm basically redoing something we've seen before, so it's less interesting. But thoughts, questions?
So ultimately, it's a cat and mouse game.
Yeah,
like if your security team is onto this sort of stuff, and I know there's that whole debate whether they kick you out or keep you and watch what you're doing anyway, but arguably they could put a stop to this and you're screwed within 10 seconds of you getting in.
Oh yeah, they can whack-a-mole. If they see me get in, they could just whack me out, right? But how do they know that that's my first time getting in? Like, how do they know that that's initial exploitation? And that's the thing you need to be kind of aware about, is it, do you take a breath or do you immediately react? That's why you might have at machine speed, like setting up your saws to immediately slap them down by going, hey, this looks like MS17010. I've been pre-approved to deny any connections, which try and attempt to do that. And that's what I'd be recommending you do, something like that, right? Because again, a lot of this stuff, it's malicious, and what your saw and stuff like that is seeing is this, and it can make a signature of going, whenever you see, this kind of stuff happening, then you know for fact that's someone trying to exploit SMB version 1, and let's nip that in the bud. That's the idea. But again, if I was an attacker and if one way doesn't work, I'll just try a different way. Can't get through the door, I'll get through the window. I'll just keep trying. The funny thing is that penetration testers generally always win. There's always a way. And look, I'm in. Okay. So what do I want to do now that I'm here, and what I should have done before, but I absolutely completely forgot about it? I want to make sure that I can set up remote desktop access back to this machine. So then that way, if I did ever want to connect back into it, I can. That's the idea that I want to set up. So again, you go, okay, Arj, how do you set up remote desktop access? Well, you could just be like this, enable remote desktop Windows 7 command line. And you can just simply Google it and you can just find out this stuff so simply and easy. And that's the horrifying thing behind it all. You just feel like, oh my God, seriously? So that's one way. The other thing I can do is I can actually just check to see if it was already had remote desktop access. So I'm going to see if I can break this down horizontally as well. I'll open up a new terminal as well, see if I can. Now, how would I connect into remote desktop if it was active? I can use a program called XFreeRDP, which is basically free remote desktop protocol. I'll put in my user. We know our username is John, as we have just learned before. And the password, ALQFNA22, and V, which means victim, basically, is going to be blue. So if this works, which it may not, because John may not be part of the remote desktop users group, I might be able to connect in as him. And that will be kind of the compromise fully done. If it doesn't work, we can open that hole ourselves, like I was showing you in the picture. All right, let's do it. I don't know why that's running so slow, but whatever, let's close out of that. Okay, looks like I pressed enter, looks like it's hung. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's just running extraordinarily slow for some reason. So remember I was telling you about virtual machines? It's an abstraction of the underlying hardware. Sometimes you have this problem where literally virtual machines are just so dang slow, and it just makes your life really horrible. So yeah, I'm just waiting to see what's happening here. It seems like things are just like kind of crashing on my computer, which is not ideal when I'm in the middle of doing a demo. That means the demo gods are not helping me out here, which is not ideal. But if this does work and it loads up, we'll see a Windows desktop. That's the idea. Remote desktop, we get to see a Windows desktop if it works. I'm just trying to close out of the internet browser, and as you can see, it's just like straight up broke. Okay. Oh, here you go. This is saying there is a certificate. Do you want to accept the certificate? I'm just going to say yes. Hey guys, look at this. Activate Windows now. Cancel. I don't want to activate Windows. I'm connected into John's PC. I have full access. I have everything I need. Okay. And guys, that's it. That's how we do a hack. But how will we do a penetration test? Tell me what would have to happen now for this to be a penetration test.
A report.
Report.
Need to write a report. I need to remove anything malicious I put on those machines. Okay. I don't just leave them there for the next guy. Okay. I need to identify everything that I did. It's better to, in any of these situations, you know what you also do? You make a detailed record of any machine you touched. You even record all of the sessions. Better yet, you do like a screen record of all your entire video of that whole session. So then that way they know exactly what happened and when it happened as well. Because you know what quite often happens during penetration tests? Unrelated systems on opposite networks just fall over at the same time and they go, "Oh my God, Nikki, you took this down. You bring it back up." And you're like, "I didn't touch that." And they go, "Prove it." Like, you know what I mean? Like you're here doing a penetration test. Prove that you didn't break this system. So you need to have a whole listing and record of that as well. Because again, it could be really bad. But guys, that's what we do. Now we spend the next week writing up a pen test report, send it to the client, get paid. That's what we're talking about. Or what we do if we were, I'd sell this access on the dark web, the privacy web, and I'd get paid. And then a nation state will want access to John's PC. Okay.
And you wouldn't have to write a report.
And I wouldn't have to write a report. So yeah, depends on what ethics where you sit in that branch. But that, hopefully, that has glued together a whole bunch of stuff. So you're just like, that's what my adversary sees. That's how easy. They literally write hash dump and they've got all my hashes. They literally run a free program called Hashcat on their MacBook and they've gotten my password. Oh boy, this is why I get told to do like 20 character passwords. If I had a 20 character password, you know how long it would take my MacBook? My MacBook would probably be on fire before the thing ever worked out what that password is, right? So that's why we do what we do. Congratulations for some of you. That was your first time compromising a machine. Now, when you have Australian government security clearances, you can say, "I know how to do that." and they'll be like, nice, dodgy hacker. So questions before you have a break. When you come back from you want 10? You want 15? 10 or 15, guys? What do you want? 10 or 15-minute break? Yeah, you can have 10. You can have 10. Come back for a 10-minute break. We will be giving you then time, like a couple of hours, to then go and do your practice exam. I will be here if you've got any questions. Jake will be here if you've got any questions. Otherwise, you can turn off your cameras. You can focus on doing it. And then we come back. We have a little bit of a review. Like, hopefully don't take the whole full 2 hours because I've spent extra time this morning doing this morning. So come back as soon as you're finished. We can talk through stuff, can answer any questions. We'll be fully prepared. Then we have a lunch break. Then we do our exam when we come back after that. Okay? Cool. Let me get the time. Let me get the clock up. I'm going to stop the recording now as we don't need to have it. Stop
Recording stopped.
And let's get the clock up, and I'll see you soon.
Nailed it.
Coffee time.
Coffee time.